Yes.
All right. Yes. All right. Very good. So we are live, and I want to welcome everyone to our Meet the Member. Today we are going to be interviewing Paula. And before we get started with our interview, I'm just going to do a very brief introduction. My name is Linda. I'm your Back in the Groove Again coach. And I found it. The interviews that we're doing over the last few months, interviewing our members, are for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to give the members a chance to give a shout out about themselves, their services, a little bit about who they are, so we can get to know one another as well. And I always honestly find it fascinating when I find or when I hear some of the changes that our members have gone through to become who they are today, right? A lot of the members have had to sometimes change careers, move to find their groove. And that's what I find really fascinating, to be honest with you, when I'm interviewing. So I want to talk to you, Paula, and find out more about you. We don't know a lot about you. I remember, and I shared with you this a little bit earlier, that when we first connected, you were working on a house. So can you tell us a little bit more about this and a little bit more about you, please, as we move forward?
Absolutely. So, thank you first of all for having me here, and hello to everybody who's watching. I try not to bore you. So, let's start with the house. Uh, I met my husband in Mexico, and we both love Mexico. We were crazy dancing salsa. It was the best time of our life. And we had to move back to the States because of his family reason. But all that time, we were just counting days to the day we'll be able to go back to Mexico. So the idea was to get a cheap house in the States just to stash our belongings and have the permanent address in the United States and then go live in Mexico. It didn't work out. The situation in Mexico is not really very good right now. I mean, that was 2 years ago. The gangs have moved in, the drugs have become a real problem. So we decided that maybe we should better think about our safety. And in the process, we got stuck with this cheap house that required a lot of much more than just TLC. It
This is
required a serious renovation.
This is reminding me of a movie, a horror movie, where a couple or a single woman has purchased a house, and now it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this?
It's been fun. It's been a little challenging because we had a crew here working nonstop for 2 years or so. And now we are just alone, working slowly on putting finishing touches.
Wow. So this has been a project, an ongoing project for the last 2 years in
Yes,
the States,
yes,
not in Mexico.
no, in the
All right.
States,
All right. So
right.
talk talk to us a little bit about Mexico, just a bit.
Okay, so one of my dreams was always to study Spanish.
Hmm.
So after I finished my major in photophysics and photochemistry, I decided to sign up for Spanish just for a few courses. I ended up enrolling in master's degree, and one of the requirements was to live abroad for a year in a Spanish-speaking country. It was either Spain or Mexico.
Hmm.
Spain at that time for me was prohibitively expensive, so I chose Mexico. And while I was in Mexico, I found a job with International Living. I don't know if
Yes,
you're familiar
of
with them.
course, of course.
I became their Mexico expert,
Oh,
moved
right.
to San Miguel, Guanajuato, fell in love, and stayed there for 6 years.
Oh, Paula, okay, I have to add that I discovered international living about 3 years ago, and I went to one of their conferences in Atlanta,
Mhm.
might have been 2 years ago. Awesome. Yeah, it was, and I'm still dreaming of going to Mexico or anywhere really for at least 3 months at a time. Well, that's awesome. Okay. So it happened to be one of the requirements of the master's program to
Yes,
live abroad.
yes.
And of course, yo hablo español.
Perfectamente.
Well, good, because I don't know a lot about Spanish. All right. So you got involved in doing some work for international living
Yes,
in Mexico.
yes.
And are you still involved with that now?
No,
From
not
from
anymore. It
US?
lasted only a year.
Mm,
That project didn't work for them financially.
mm-hmm.
So they got rid of all the country consultants. They had them at the beginning in all Latin American countries.
Yes,
So they dropped that project, but I've already made contacts there. I easily found another job being a bilingual, so I stayed.
absolutely. All right. So what are you doing now? Tell us a little bit more about what's keeping you busy these days.
Okay. So when we came back to the United States, that was 2010, I started my menopause and I started gaining weight like crazy.
Mm,
I gained about 35 pounds in 1 year,
mm.
and I was desperately looking for solutions. At the beginning, I was like, oh, it's going to be so easy. There
Yes,
are all those magazines, all those websites with so much information.
yes,
So I started going through some workouts. I started making some diet changes, try this diet, try that diet, nothing worked.
yes.
So I remembered about my semi-scientific background and I got down to the research. It took me 3 years of reading different studies and
Mm,
trying different things to finally lose that weight. And I was able to keep it off for the 7 years now and
wow,
counting.
wow.
And through that process, I found out that there are so many women over 50
Yes,
fighting the same battle.
yes,
And I felt a calling because I devoted so much time and I believe I know the solution that I decided to become a health coach and focus on weight loss and help those women.
that's wonderful. I was just thinking that one of the ways that women want to get back in their groove is by losing weight. And, women our age, 50 and over, and I'm 62, so, 60 and over, um, have a difficult time losing weight. And I truly believe that with support such as yours, they can lose weight and maintain that weight.
It is
So,
possible,
yeah,
definitely. I'm
yeah,
60 myself right now.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you offer your services. All right. Um,
Right now, I'm basically doing one on one coaching, and
mm,
it's 6 months minimum
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
because it's not a diet. It's a slow change of a lifestyle,
mm-hmm.
developing new habits, and that takes time.
Yes,
This is the main reason diets don't work because it's relatively easy to use our willpower and force ourselves to
yes,
change something, let's say for 4 weeks or 6 weeks. But then we go back to our regular routine. It doesn't
yes.
stick. And
Mm,
that's why we start the yo yo dieting cycle.
yes.
So I believe 6 months is the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And also, I've just recently partnered with a medical doctor,
Oh,
Dr. Matthew Nguyen, and we will be starting a new project together.
wow.
I'll tell you a secret, it's just for your members. It's going to be called Weight Loss Dojo.
Weight loss dojo?
Yes, because we are all
Okay.
very interested in martial arts.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Weight loss dojo. Okay,
Dojo.
you have to tell us a little bit more about the dojo part of the weight loss.
Well, it's like training for the martial arts. You start slowly, you
Mm,
do a lot of repetitive moves, getting into a new habit.
right,
You
right.
start slow, you do air punches at the beginning before you hit the bag. So, this is what we are going to do. This is our main idea to start slow, to develop habits one by one, not everything at once.
Yes,
Once you develop one habit, we will move to another habit, to
yes,
another habit, to another habit. and you will leave absolutely trained and ready for sustained weight, maybe not loss anymore, but maintenance.
Right. And martial arts, right? Which requires, and I know you're using that as a an image, but martial arts requires eventually some, or let me back that up. Let me rephrase that. Martial arts, from what I understand, is a discipline.
Yes.
It's a discipline. So can you speak to the discipline part of your program?
The discipline is very important at the beginning
Yes.
because you may be doing some exercises or starting on a habit and you don't immediately see the results.
Yes.
So the tendency is to say, okay, this is not working, I need to find something else.
Yes.
The discipline is to believe that it's going to work eventually and sticking to it.
Stick to it. Yes. I think that's it. You know, a lot of I used to work in the weight loss industry many years ago, and and I'll just keep this part brief, but this was for a company that sold, you know, products, and I was coming at it from a consultant point of view because I believe that, you know, women and men, of course, too, need to be able to talk about their process, their weight loss process, and so on. And a lot of the women were given up early because they weren't losing fast enough.
Right, right. And
And
we really cannot control how much we are going to lose and
mhm,
when it's going to happen,
mhm,
because that depends on so many variables. We have even no idea, you know, even people who are scientists in physiology, in endocrinology, cannot predict that because it's very individual. We
mhm.
can only control our habits and behaviors.
Yes, yes, I have to agree. And especially, you know, when we get a certain age, and I hate to say this, but we are ingrained in some of our habits, and some of them are not very good habits.
Yes.
I speak from experience.
Yes, and we also tend to think, well, I've been doing that for 50 years and it didn't kill me, so it can't be bad.
Exactly. So let's talk about some of the tips without revealing the whole secret. Let's talk about some of the tips that you could share to women in our group. And I'll also, by the way, I'll also be posting this on YouTube. I didn't mention that at the beginning. So to whoever's watching, some tips that could be helpful.
So it, it it's very hard to give tips
Okay.
that would apply to anybody
Hmm.
because nowadays a lot of people have metabolic syndrome or prediabetes or diabetes, and certain tips may not apply to them because of the sugar and insulin fluctuations.
Hmm.
But in general, something that applies to absolutely everybody would be to pay attention to the sugar content. I'm not even talking about things like starch, like potatoes, like bread. I'm talking about sugar, because the main culprit in weight gain is fructose, which is in table sugar, which is, of course, in high fructose corn syrup, in many fruits, in some vegetables, in honey, in maple syrup, who are called healthy sweeteners.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying that you can't have fructose forever,
Hmm.
but during the active weight loss phase, you should really pay attention to fructose, to added sugar, and avoid that. And of course, processed foods.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good place to start. Now, if if you were to say, okay, let's start with reducing sugar, would you suggest to go from zero, from let's pretend it's 100% sugar to zero sugar, or gradual? What do you suggest? Are we going
I
cold
would
turkey?
I would eliminate unhealthy sugars.
Oh, mhm,
As I said, glucose on its own, which is basically starch, is long chains of glucose.
Hmm.
So starch is found in corn, in potatoes, starchy vegetables. So it's not as dangerous, and it will give you enough glucose so your body will not scream for sugar. So as long as you are used to eating high carbohydrate diet, your body is trained to look for the carbohydrate first whenever you need energy. So you might have those cravings at the beginning. But if you lower your carb intake and replace carbs with fat, you can shift your metabolism to using fat for energy. And then you will not have those cravings anymore.
Mm.
But you have to be careful to replace the sugar with fat, healthy fat, obviously,
Well, I was going to
because we
ask.
can only have energy from two sources, carbohydrate or fat. If you
Mm,
are cutting down on one, you have increased the other.
right. Okay, great. Now, sometimes when we're talking, well, I wouldn't say sometimes, maybe most of the time we're talking about looking at our what we're eating. Most professionals will also suggest exercise or being a little bit more physical at the very least. Could you speak a little bit to that? Is that part of that secret as well, or?
I think that exercise is overrated
Mm,
as far as weight loss.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Just by doing exercise, if you're not going to change your diet, won't really bring any big results.
right.
However, exercise is a completely different category and it's absolutely necessary. First of all, it increases glucose and insulin sensitivity. So, especially if you suspect that you might be insulin resistant or pre diabetic, exercise is very important. And second, especially for women over 50, we need to prevent sarcopenia, which is gradual loss of muscle, because that eventually leads to falls, to loss of balance, and broken hip. And that is a really second leading indirect cause of death in women over 60 nowadays,
Mm,
of complications.
okay.
So I would definitely recommend not just physical activity like walking, but actually resistance training.
Mm,
You can train with weights at any age. We are never too old for that. And
mm,
not like baby weights. If you have to start at that point, of course, but eventually go higher and higher.
mm-hmm,
I'm actually training with 12s right now, 12 pounders.
mm-hmm. Could you tell us a little bit more about your journey? Your weight loss journey. Just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yes. So I was trying different things, as I said, and eventually I had to give up and look for help.
Mm-hmm.
So I, at that time, I wasn't working and I couldn't afford a coach, but I found sort of a mentor. It was a weight loss coach who was also selling online programs. So I purchased one of his programs, and that was a winner. That program included carb cycling, intermittent fasting, and a lot of protein.
Mm.
It also included exercises, and I have to admit I didn't do any. It
Okay.
was just the diet, just the change in nutrition that made all the change. And it
Mhm.
was it was amazing. After 3 years, in 6 weeks, it was like whoosh, all the weight gone.
Wow.
So I started looking into that. I started to try figuring out why his program worked.
Right.
And I think I understand now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's important for us to hear is that, sometimes it requires a bit of an investment. For any type of coaching, even, the type of coaching that I offer, people are often reluctant to invest in something, thinking it's not going to help and they can do it on their own anyways, right? But what you're saying here is that it was worth it for you.
Definitely.
It was
Definitely
definitely,
on so
yeah.
many levels.
Hmm. Now, other than the weight loss, because we know there's always some other, benefits. What were some of the other benefits, the side benefits?
After I lost weight and started getting more energy, I actually started exercising.
Oh,
I have a routine that is so simple, anybody can do it. I exercise for 10 minutes every other day. It is
wonderful.
a rather
That's it.
intense interval training.
Is that it? 10
Yes,
minutes
I
every
mean,
second
no,
day?
I sometimes do something for fun
Okay.
when I feel like it, but I don't have to if I don't want to. So it's a 10-minute interval training, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds rest. And I have to tell you, I got so much stamina over the last couple of years. For example, I could never run. I couldn't run a block. No way. Half a block and I'm out of breath. Right now, I got to a mile and a half.
Wow.
For the first time in my life, I can do regular push ups from the toes, not from the
Wow.
knees.
Right.
I couldn't do them when I was younger. So that's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. And you started doing that after you had lost your weight, not
Yes,
during the weight
yes,
loss part.
yes,
Yeah. Because you had more energy to do it.
yes.
Now, did you always like exercise when you
No,
were
I
young?
never did that before. My only exercise was dancing salsa when we lived in Mexico.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So when we start feeling better about ourselves, we're open to other possibilities.
Yes.
And in your case, exercise. Now, what else did it do for you? We're talking
Could
about
you?
maybe, yes, because we talked about, weight loss. Yes, we feel good physically and we have more energy, but sometimes something else happens to our mindset, something else happens to maybe our emotions, something else happens as a result of the weight
Hmm.
loss other than
Hmm.
energy.
I'm much more in tune with my body.
Mm,
I know exactly when I'm really hungry and when it's something different. I'll give you an example, and I think many people can relate to that. Sometimes I sit at the computer and I get stuck. For example, I'm writing a blog post and I don't really know, I can't find the right words. And I have this urge to go to the kitchen and grab something to eat. But I'm not really hungry. Now I know. At the beginning, I would actually go to the kitchen and get some food. Now I understand that this is psychological hunger. This is not real hunger.
that's
So I just take a break, go do something else for 10 minutes, come back and finish my post or whatever I was doing.
yes. Yeah, that's great. In mindfulness, they suggest to ride the wave. I don't know if you've heard that expression, ride the wave, because we know that that hunger or whatever that thought is won't last.
Yes,
It'll be just a moment. But if we act on impulse and we go to the fridge, then we wouldn't know that it's not going to last.
yes. And
Wonderful.
another thing I learned, and I believe that many people can relate to that too, that staying hungry for a while won't kill you.
Right? That's true. And it's not, I mean, it's not like we live in a country where food isn't around or available for us.
Yes,
We won't die if we don't eat for a little while.
yes. Actually, this is the most natural way of living. Our ancestors didn't have stores, didn't even have saved food from the day before, many times. So every morning they would have to get up and go either hunt or find something.
Right, right.
And sometimes they wouldn't. That's why we have all those mechanisms in our bodies that take the nutrients and save them and then
Mm-hmm.
release them when we don't have any food available.
Mm-hmm. I think I like the idea of pretending that we're back in, I was going to say cavemen days or cave women days, and pretend that we have to look for our food. because it's so convenient and easy now to open up the fridge or go to a fast food place, on and use these apps that will deliver the food, as opposed to just waiting a few minutes or hours or a little
Mhm,
longer in some cases.
mhm.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. So we are nearing the end of our interview. So just a couple of more questions. I am curious to know what gets you in your groove, Paula.
I would have to say music.
Any type of music except, well, salsa for sure.
Definitely salsa. Basically, any type of Latin music. I speak a little bit Brazilian Portuguese. I
Ah,
speak Spanish. And I like when I can understand the lyrics and I jive with it.
oh,
So whenever I hear good lyrics, I don't really care that much about the music itself.
oh,
And salsa happened to have very good lyrics for me.
oh, wonderful. No, that's great because I don't understand Spanish enough to know what they're saying, but I love the beat.
Mhm.
Now, um, how do people get a hold of you? I noticed that there were a few people watching. Now, they're not right now, but there were a few people watching. And what we'll do afterwards is I'll add, maybe a line in the comment section after. How do people get a hold of you if they want to know more from about your
Absolutely.
services?
I have a Facebook page called New Leaf After 50.
Mhm.
That's the
Nice.
name of my company. And I have a Facebook group that is called Weight Loss Over 50.
All right. And so because I can't add the comments right now, I'm going to encourage you to add that to the live once
Of
it's
course.
in the group. Perfect.
Hmm.
All right. So we could look you up through the Facebook group and also connect with you in other ways. Do you have a website at all?
Not at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Very good. So what's next for you as we close our interview?
Next for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to starting the next year with a bang with my new partner.
That's awesome.
We are working right now on a short program, which will be 4 to 6 weeks introduction to weight loss. It will be basically aimed at go-getters who can get the idea and run with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then after this short program, we will be offering coaching group for 6 months for people who would like guidance and hand holding.
Yes, I think that's a great idea because some people are go-getters and they can get it and do it on their own, but other people need more support. So
Yes,
that's wonderful. Yes,
absolutely.
that's
So we want to cater to both kinds of people. We don't want to
absolutely
force anybody in a long-term relationship if they don't need it.
exactly. Yeah, I really like that. All right. Well, we are at the end of our time. Thank you. It was really nice meeting with you, Paula.
Thank you
And
so much for having me. It was a pure pleasure.
you're welcome. And we'll see you in our group.
Definitely.
Have a
Bye
great day.
bye.
Bye-bye now.